Greetings and salutations. It's time for another episode of the Geek Out. But this one comes, of course, with a heavy heart. Because today we are paying homage to Stan Lee. And, of course, I brought Brandon on because this would be an almost crossover situation. But it's not going to feel the way a normal crossover would. But we're going to give props to the man and what he's done. And he's done quite a bit for, especially the world of comics. And now that's transitioned over into movies. So without doing this any other way and not trying to be too negative about it, what's happening, Brandon?
What's going on?
Hey, man. What a day. What a day.
The announcement of Stan Lee's death.
Yeah, that changed some things.
Yeah, it did a little bit.
A little bit. It's a passing of history. I think that's what I'm looking at it as. I know a lot of people that were contacting me earlier about it. Everyone's really sad about it, but I mean, I don't think this is really a nerd tears moment, and not a rage nerd tears moment. This is more of a let's look at what he's done and how he's moved things forward. And I think that's how I would like to look at this, because the man left a legacy, especially in the world of comic books. He changed comics. He changed comics. Plus, he and Kirby changed the hidden views that they had. They snuck it in comic books, so they had a commentary. Because if you look at something as simple as the X-Men, there's so many parallels between the X-Men and the civil rights movement that was going on when that comic book came out. Mm-hmm. We also he really established family first. No matter what social situation you're talking about, he started off with the Fantastic Four.
First creation with Jack Kirby.
And that, to me, I mean, when you sit there
and
look at...
Who was their first villain?
Well, if you want to get down into technicalities of that, it's Mole Man. But beyond that, their first true villain, Doom. Yeah, it is. What?
Namor was the Human Torch's first villain.
That was the Human Torch's first villain.
But he came before the Fantastic Four. And technically,
if you're going to get into...
because he's a part of the Fantastic Four, that would
I don't even consider Namor involved with the Fantastic Four anymore.
He shouldn't be. He's on his own now, but
he's not. Still, he's beyond on his own right now. He's a member of the freaking X-Men. Yeah. He's a mutant now, so that's the reason I'm like, Namor, you have been revoked.
Well, they had to take his parallels from Aquaman away.
Yeah, I mean, the farther they push it, it was a little bit better, especially since Aquaman was actually starting to get a little bit higher in popularity. But that's not what we're here to talk about tonight.
Nope.
We're talking about what the man has left in his legacy, and I think that's what we need to honestly talk about as far as what he's done. But the fun part about this being the Geek Out, this didn't just happen this didn't just affect the world of comic books. This also affected movies.
Right. The Marvel Cinematic Universe just lost a Watcher.
Yeah, which hopefully they'll maybe come out and explain that, yes, he was Earth's Watcher.
They did that already, though.
They hinted at it.
One time I was a FedEx driver, and this one time I was a...
They hinted at it, but... Like, you know that this legacy of him being the Watcher is probably going to get passed on into comic books. He's going to be...
filmed a scene for Avengers 4.
I'm willing to bet he has.
Because if not, then the sad thing is Deadpool 2 is going to be his last...
No, that's awesome.
Film.
If you're going to go out, yeah, I think that's the one you go out on. But, I mean...
Yeah, but I'd like to see it because Deadpool... Avengers 4 is like the culmination of... Over the past, well, I mean, technically decade. Infinity War was supposed to be, but instead Avengers 4 is going to be. So as long as they stick to that, this is going to be the culmination of the past decade and a half.
And we don't even know. Captain Marvel may have her own Stan Lee.
That's true, because they've already filmed that too.
They've already filmed that, so we don't know. And if you really want to get deep into it, I know they've actually started on some pre-work for Spider-Man too.
They could have already filmed so many Stan Lee cameos. They just have them in the cans ready to insert them. So for the next 20 years, you could still have Stan Lee cameos, even though he's passed.
And that would be great. And who knows what they could actually have
nerds, done. Okay, I told you I'd be positive this episode.
Yeah.
So let me rephrase this. The same people that complained about the Princess Leia overlays will be the same people that'll complain about the...
There's going to be a huge difference between them shooting 3 seconds of, even if they CG him in, there's a difference between that and having a full-on, like, scene, without, like, if we're going to say positive, a full-on scene of her flying through space. That's neither negative nor positive. That's just me talking.
She was saved by the Metachlorians.
Moving on. So, the concept comes down to it is, he's left a legacy in film. And I know you were looking at some information earlier. So, how many times in the past 10 years, or actually more than 10 years, because this started back with the Remy Spider-Man, didn't it? So, how many total films has Stan Lee shown up in? I mean, how far back can we go? Because if I remember correctly, you were bringing up we can go back before the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. So, where does this start with his cameoing?
Hold on.
Because
it gets good. Of course, he did his cameo in 1998 with Blade. Mallrats would be, it looks like the first
one.
The first actual appearance. No.
Because there was one before that?
Larry Cohen's The Ambulance.
I'm not going to count that one.
No, Eric Roberts played an aspiring comic artist. So he played Stan Lee.
Yeah.
But then he played himself in Mallrats.
The Mallrats is where I want to start at.
Okay, fine.
I'll start there.
He made a second cameo for Smith's films in Yoga Hosers.
Really?
He was a police officer.
Yeah, I missed out on Yoga Hosers. That one was one of the ones that I was just like, I'm going to walk away from.
Yeah, I mean, positive. Okay.
Yeah, like, how are you going to pull this one off?
Kevin Smith tried, and he did good for his daughter.
And you know what? Sometimes if you're doing something like that, it's best to do it for being best dad.
So here's my first introduction to Stan Lee in film, though. Was in Mallrats, where you have a scene where Kevin Smith has Stan Lee being straight-faced while a character named Brody, played by Jason Lee, is talking to him about the things dong, or dork as he called it, and other superhero sexual anatomy parts, which was a theme in that movie. He goes on to explain why. I mean, previously to meeting Stan Lee, Brody was explaining to I'm forgetting the guy's name, the main character of the film, that Lois Lane could ever carry Superman's baby.
Yeah.
But this is it was a cool way to introduce Stan Lee to the mass audience, I think.
Yeah, because definitely
most people had no idea at the time who Stan Lee was.
Outside of the geek community, I can say, yeah. I mean, that definitely is something different. And at that point, he was just some old guy.
But I can say that I feel like Kevin Smith's films with his cameos of outside stars are starting to get a little bit of Final Destination.
Wow. You're on the Geek Out, man.
That was not a negative.
How how am I not supposed to take that as a negative? I'm like, wow,
I didn't say anything sucked.
I
said I feared.
You turned it into a Final Destination situation.
I'm afraid of it. We already lost Alan Rickman. Now Stan Lee.
Okay.
Somebody go protect Alanis Morissette.
Wow. Anyways, moving forward. Next one. Was he in Blade?
He made a cameo in Blade.
I can't remember. Now I'm going to go back there and watch Blade again because I can't remember his cameo in that one.
It was deleted in the final film, but he was the cop that discovers Quinn's burning body in the Vampire Club.
Okay, so I was like, I don't remember him.
He also did not have a hand in the creation of the actual Blade film.
No, but he had the overseeing of Marvel. So what happens after that? Is then we get into Sam Raimi?
No, we go into Daredevil and Hulk.
Oh, see, the movies I've tried my best to not capitalize on. Those were some rough ones.
Nope. Then Spider-Man. Then
okay.
So it is the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Then we get into Hulk and Daredevil.
Yeah.
So and then after that, he's a Three Stooges wedding guest. He makes a cameo appearance in the Disney film Princess Diaries 2. I'm
keeping this strictly on the Marvel front, man. Once we start getting to Princess Diaries 2, that's when I start losing it.
There's so much more he's done. You can't.
You're just going to really highlight on everything he's done, not just
his photograph was on the Board of Missing People in Man-Thing from 2005.
Okay, that's the first that was done recently. Also, it was just I think it was. I'm trying to remember which movie it was. He was just a picture and like on the corner or something like that, and like missing person type of thing. I'm trying to remember which Marvel movie it was.
And
I think it was Homecoming.
To animation, he made a brief cameo appearance in the animated film Jay and Silent Bob's Super Groovy cartoon movie from 2014.
Okay, that is one I can honestly say I just missed that one. Yeah, there are some things that you can't Excelsior
his voice and likeness to be used for the father of the character Fred in Big Hero 6.
Okay.
Stan Lee also makes vocal cameo appearances in Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
Oh, that's one heck of a crossover.
Well, I mean, Jack Kirby wrote for DC. Why should Stan Lee not voice for him? Lee recorded a voiceover cameo this year in Ralph Breaks the Internet.
So it'll still exist for a while now.
He also played himself in the 2011 Frankie Muniz film Pizza Man.
Okay, that's where I'm going to go again. Yeah, Pizza Man.
I mean, it was Malcolm in the Middle's movie. I'm going off the list right now.
You're going off the list. That's all I can sit there and say.
Lee filmed a cameo in 2010 for the film Kick-Ass. He was a man watching news footage. The title.
I do remember that. Okay, that one I remember.
So we've gone into all of his non-Marvel.
But then he just went back to back for the past 10 years, figuring out some way of actually squeezing him into even Guardians. The Guardians one, I think, is the one that threw me the most off. Which one was it for you that was just like, okay, Stan Lee's just happens to be there? Which one was it for you?
Best cameo appearance for me was the Deadpool 2 trailer that was released on YouTube.
Okay.
Where Deadpool just tells him to shut up.
Yeah. That was a good one. I also still like the one where he was a DJ at the strip club. Because I was not expecting that at all in any way. Not little old man.
There's a slew of TV appearances.
Well, the man has been quite busy.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly too much to get into. He'd spend an hour and a half just doing his TV appearances.
Yeah, and that's where I get into. He's done a lot.
But he did all of the X-Men's. He did all X-Men, Last Stand, Apocalypse. He didn't make an appearance in Logan, but he made an appearance in the short film that played before Logan in the theaters, No Good Deed.
Okay.
He was in Deadpool. He was in the trailer for Deadpool 2. He also is in Deadpool 2. And then he has the non-speaking cameo in 2017's X-Men television series, The Gifted.
I did not know he showed up in The Gifted.
The original Spider-Man trilogy did by Sam Raimi. Then the 2 Fantastic Four films.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
What did you say? I'm
2005
sorry.
2005 and 2007's Silver Surfer movie and the Silver Surfer prequel.
Oh, the Silver Surfer movies. Okay, yeah, I remember those.
The Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
He did those 2. But he didn't do any of the other X-Men or other Fantastic Four.
Well, that other Fantastic Four, I don't think anyone really counts.
Fox does.
Right.
That's how they got Disney to buy them.
Hey, put out whatever you can.
They threatened to make another Fantastic Four film.
And that's all it takes
Disney's
sometimes.
like, fine, we'll buy you. Shut up.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll come out with a better Fantastic Four.
Yep.
But the man has done a lot. I mean, he's left his legacy. People know him just as between his little catchphrase and showing up at cons. He stayed active, and for 95 years, I think we tapped about all we can tap out of Stan Lee.
We're going for that.
I think that we're to the point now that he and Kirby can rest in heaven and make amazing comic books.
He was Hugh Hefner in Iron Man.
Yes. And then was it like the whole veteran of some sort of World War
in Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Yeah,
he was a business guy in Iron Man 2. He was a redneck in Thor. He was
a redneck,
decorated war veteran in Captain America: The First Avenger, which was the same veteran that he played in. He played chess in Avengers in New York.
Okay.
He,
I remember that one.
Of course, was in Amazing Spider-Man. He was judging somebody without his mustache in Iron Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
He was a mental health patient in the Dark World.
Yeah.
Security guard in Winter Soldier. Then he was
all this to prove that this guy was the Watcher. Now, for those of you not geek initiated, there is a character within the comic books that is literally just watching all this stuff going on. Can't get involved up to a certain point. but for the most part, he just sits there and records what all is going on.
Civil War, he was a FedEx driver.
So what they've done is they've made Stan Lee into the Watcher, and we kind of found that out at the end of this run of these movies, that Stan Lee the entire time has just been watching all of these different movies as different characters just kind of showing up. But the man left a legacy, and I think that's where, as sad as it may be, this will live on for beyond our time in life.
Oh yeah, you're looking at a cultural icon for geek culture. You're looking at somebody who crossed over into pop culture at least a little bit.
Yeah, enough to be relevant. Enough to that people that I know that aren't waving their geek flag high are still going, oh my gosh, Stan Lee passed. I mean, I found out 10 minutes after it happened, and then I was bombarded with just messages of people like, hey, did you hear? Did you hear? And I'm like, that means to me, you've made your stamp in history. And I don't think anyone that can say, especially in the geek community, that they don't know of Stan Lee. But have they actually read old school Stan Lee and know who Kirby is and know what these two guys really put forth in the comic book world? I don't think many people actually know it. So,
did you know that comic books were not the first, that he was stuck doing comic books? He did not want to do comic books.
Yeah, I know, but it was the fact of his mind.
And people hated working for him at Marvel.
Yeah.
Till he came up with some decent ideas to beat DC.
And that's where we get into, I would have to say, he was the one who threw the first stone in the
because there was a point where in the back of the Marvel comics, there used to be like he'd write things where he wouldn't call out DC directly.
No.
But he'd call out DC for doing things and certain things in their comics and make fun of them. And then he'd have the thing where people can write in and they'd call out DC and make fun of it. And yeah, it's weird to see how far ahead DC was until in the comic book wars until Stan Lee came up with the idea of the ensemble cast, which DC's been chasing ever since, including in the cinematic universe.
And which to me is another proof of that's one heck of a legacy.
Oh yeah, you made a company almost go bankrupt while thriving another, and then selling yours to Disney, making probably the best decision you could ever make for your product.
Yeah,
I mean, it's the best thing George Lucas ever did.
I think this was more epic.
Oh yeah, most definitely, because we already have Star Wars fatigue after 3 films. People are just starting to get into the Marvel fatigue after, God, I don't know how many.
Yeah, I was going to sit there and
I've lost count of Marvel films.
Yeah.
But we're just now starting to hit that where people are kind of like, all right, let's do something other than comic book films. But
it's still thriving.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, amongst just comic book fans alone, we're still going to pack a theater enough to make it where your first weekend works. Oh, so yeah. I think that this isn't and
their films are driving new comic book readers that wouldn't necessarily pick up a comic book before.
Exactly. And so to me, that's where I think this is what works out for geek culture and as a whole.
Yeah. We
currently run the movie industry. I mean,
I know.
Hey, remember what show you're on, man?
I know. I'm on Geek Out.
Let's.
I didn't
not
say
I
anything
know
else.
with some down. Let's go. Like I know. Yeah. Excelsior. There, I got one in.
Excelsior.
Yeah. Here it comes down to it is it's been cool. We had to put together something to at least acknowledge the fact that the man existed. He really shaped a lot of the things that I did as a kid. I mean, my mom was the one who got me into the Fantastic Four, so I pretty much got started with that. So
I can say that I was an exclusive Batman comic book reader, and that's the only comic book I ever read until I picked up an issue of the X-Men, and I quit buying Batman comics. And then I went back and I read a bunch of older comic books that were done by Stan Lee, and his writing was just better than anything DC did. Him and Jack Kirby did better stories than anybody on DC in their first initial runs. And then the writers Marvel hired in the 90s were just amazing. He knew how to take a product and make it a million times better.
Yeah, and I think that's where...
And to me, that's his legacy.
That's his legacy, plus you can't talk about X-Men without ever bringing him up.
But I am going to be me for a second.
What? Wait a minute. Hold on, man. The show's not even over yet.
Hold on. I got like me for a second, then you can have your 5 minutes.
No, but the show's almost
If anybody was surprised that Stan Lee died at 95.
Wow, man. You're really going to do this?
I am. Listen.
You're on the Geek Out, man.
I know. Here's the thing. I look at everybody who's posting like, oh, I'm so sad Stan Lee died. How many of them are really sad and how many of them want likes on their social media posts? He was 95.
Yeah.
I
lived a full
loved
life.
George Romero.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked that he died, but I can't say that I was sad. I was sad we wouldn't get more films. Just like because it's different when you, and I want to kind of make this more, a little bit real here for a second.
Okay, go ahead, man.
It's different when you have a creator. Yes, their creations have touched our lives.
Yes, 100%.
But we don't know them personally. We can't necessarily be super heartbroken, like my world's destroyed, like I'm seeing on social media.
All right.
Because they passed away. We could be mournful because, and I'm going to be the one to say it, we're not going to get any more product by them. My first thought...
But have we been really getting product... if I'm going to jump on this with you, but have we really been getting product from Stan Lee?
Yes.
Not really.
Not creations,
not
but
creations.
he has contributed to products for the last decade.
Yes, and he's continued his legacy on.
What was the first question I had for you when I called you about the news of Stan Lee's death?
Well,
how is Marvel going to weave his cameos in and out of their films now?
And I still think that they probably have
covered that earlier, but that was my first thought was, oh man,
how are they going to replace the Watcher?
I look forward to Stan Lee's cameos. That was he's 95 years old. Dude had a long life, and I mean, this may seem really insensitive to me, but death is a natural part of life. I'm not sad for him. I mean, he's dodged some bullets in his day with certain things that have come out recently where people are like, oh, he's a bad person, but he's Stan Lee, man. You can't be mad at Stan Lee. It's regardless of what kind of person he was or wasn't, he created an amazing ensemble of superheroes. He created a dynasty of a comic book company, and he contributed to the entertainment of millions upon millions of people. And we should all be appreciative of him.
Yeah.
And we should all, show respect to the fact that he's passed, but let's not go overboard.
Okay, so you done now?
I'm done. That was positive.
That was real. I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say it wasn't. I wasn't going to go through and go that direction with it, but it is an issue that we do have to deal with in this day and age, which is where I was kind of slightly building on the fact of there are a lot of people who are non-geeks who are like, oh, Stan Lee. And I'm going, did you read like old comics? Do you know the difference between a Stan Lee story? Have you read his books, or do you only know him just as cameos? It's the problem within the geek culture, because as far as we've expanded, we're now having to deal with fair weather geek fans. So
that's apparent in the show Big Bang Theory.
And we're not going into Big Bang Theory.
No, because I promised you I'd be positive this episode.
Thank you.
I can't get into that show without being negative.
Okay, so since we're doing that, I'm going to end the show on a different note. There was a trailer that came out today, and it touches the geek culture. So we're going to go from...
You going to show on the bear where the geek touched you?
No. Oh, no. This gets real interesting. And it's really funny that we were just talking about Deadpool, because Ryan Reynolds has a new project coming out.
I've heard something about it. What is it?
Oh, do you want the full name of the whole thing?
I do.
Now, I have to build it up because there's a part of me that goes, I have been waiting for a live-action version of this movie since I was a teenager.
Oh, God.
And now I'm going to get one. And I don't know if I really want it anymore.
Be careful what you wish for.
Oh, man. I wished for this a long time ago, and now I'm getting Pokemon Detective Pikachu, or Pikachu Detective, with Ryan Reynolds voicing Pikachu, that only one person can actually hear. Whenever else he talks to someone else, all they hear is a normal Pika Pika. But to this one, the main character, who has somehow lineage to the original.
I got nothing.
And this is a live-action Pokemon movie. What you got, man?
I got nothing.
Yeah, I wanted to announce that on the Geek Out. So if you're looking for something to really go, what? That is... Wait a minute, the show's not over yet. What are you taking your headphones off for? You can't leave. You can't walk.
I'm here. I can't hear that twice.
Okay. Well, go check out the trailer. It's really interesting to see what they're doing with it. And, of course, having Ryan Reynolds in there, they're going to amp up the conversational topics, especially since only one person can hear them. But with the obscure, like Pokemon live action Pikachu Detective, which there's an entire detective story that goes along with it. I also want to make sure you didn't miss out on that. There is another trailer that came out today, which I'm going into the whole thing of what we talked about on the Real Pundits of people doing these continuation movies and pushing things forward. And I'm going to include this on the Geek Out because this crosses over between both of them. Of course, I want to start singing the "You Got a Friend in Me." Yes, there's a Toy Story 4. The trailer just got released.
I knew there was Toy Story 4 coming. I didn't know there was a trailer.
Yeah, it just got put out.
Cool.
The new toy is a spork with like twist ties on him.
Cool.
And the way you responded about the Pikachu movies, the way I responded about
I quit caring about Toy Story after Toy Story 1. That's not for me as a demographic.
No, but still, it's one of those things of I know there's tons of people who honestly.
Now you tell me there's another Shrek movie coming out, I might get angry or agitated.
Okay, then we're not going to talk about that at the end of the show because we're going to be ending the show, and that'll be it for this week, guys. My big thing for this week: go to your local comic book store, go to some of the classics, pick up a trade if I can actually talk, and read one of.
There's a volume 1 of classic Marvel collections that's probably like 4 inches thick as far as a graphic novel goes.
It's like 3
annuals. It'll cover everything Jack Kirby and Stan Lee did in their original run.
And I'm willing to bet right now they're probably going to be printing a whole bunch of more of them just as paying homage. Pick one of them up and see exactly what we're talking about. Pick up an old school X-Men comic and see the parallels of what was going on at that time being done in the comic books. See the advancement of inclusion that was being used at that time period. There's a lot of things that those two guys really push for that we say is part of the legacy. So check that out. This is, of course, the Geek Out. And later on this week, we're going to put out a Real Pundits show. But until then, you have this. And we'll probably be back with another one that's not so, I wouldn't say negative, but so real, if you want to put it.
That was positive, man.
Yeah, positively real. And on that note, always check me out, ANA Real Pundit on Twitter. And if you want to sit there and send any messages, or if you actually want to disagree with me having a co-host like Brandon on the Geek Out, you can actually send something to the mailbag. Just mailbag.
Don't hit on him for it. This was my idea. I wanted to pay respect to.
This is how he does respect. At therealpundits.com. Hit us up. And of course, on iTunes, feel free to hit that little star a couple of times, or 1 star if you only want to hit it one time.
That was mostly me right there, throwing a little temper tantrum, doing one of those "you didn't love him like I did" moments.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
It's you fake, you didn't love him like I did. He's my hero.
I knew him the best.
Yeah.
Hey, but I mean, it needs to be said, in all honesty. But hey, track us down. We'll be around, and check us out on Thursday with our episode of the Real Pundits.
Real Pundits.
Yeah, and we're gonna actually talk about something very unique. And
on that note, I finally made him watch it.
Yeah,
stay tuned to find out what it is.
It? We're talking about it?
No, not again. Never again.
We're doing it part 2.
Nope.
You want to? No,
that's not out yet.
What if I had a bootleg?